Good morning or good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us wherever and whenever you are. My name is Zachary Hill, and I'm the Chief of Staff for Tomorrow's Talent, and this is the Bridge to Tomorrow's Talent. We're a podcast where we talk about the state of the workforce, the future of work-based learning, how to best launch into new careers, and what really makes the real world of work tick. We're joined today by Unmesh Srivastava. He's managing partner and CEO at Incuvio Health. Unmesh, can you tell us a little bit about what Incuvio does and what you guys are up to over there?
Absolutely. Zach, thank you for having me on your podcast. We at Incuvio Health, we are a boutique consulting firm, technology and healthcare strategy. And we pride ourselves by not only supporting healthcare organizations, whether it is payers, providers, risk-bearing entities, ACOs. We not only help them with strategy work, but we also help them with execution. We started out as a tech focused organization and AI focused, but we are moving very quickly into business process outsourcing as well as strategy.
Okay, great. And so then, when you say that you guys are working with all those entities, what kinds of services are you providing them? And I mean, how much hands-on work is there? You said you're really AI and tech driven, and how much of it is just preparing products that then they interact with?
Well, it's both. So we start anywhere from strategy building, right? There's payers and providers, healthcare providers and insurance companies right now are under a lot of pressure. Pressure around compliance, around financial changes, around scaling their operations in a compliant way without adding too much overhead. And we start anywhere from helping them devise that strategy, which is usually digitally and tech enabled strategy, because that's the only way to implement and scale these days. And then we also help them with implementation. We've got around 100 people globally, and we support these payers, providers, these first tier downstream entities, vendors, not only with strategy, but also help them drive execution. We've got a team of people which is top notch, some of the best industry people out there, from large enterprises to startups who have joined us. We take a lot of pride in embedding ourselves in these businesses and helping drive transformation efforts.
That's great. No, that's really great. Because, like you said, it's really hard to scale without just massively increasing overhead, right? And just hiring more and more people to do more and more work. So that's really cool, helping other people get at their mission and really get done what they feel like they need to get done. That's cool. So how did you get into this line of work? I mean, did you like go to school for a tech degree and then find this job, or what did your pathway kind of look like?
I'm a first generation immigrant. I was born and raised in India, did my undergrads in India, came over to the States in 2008. And that was, now when I look back, was probably not the best time to come over because there was peak recession. I came here to pursue my grad school master's degree in engineering management. I actually stumbled into healthcare. Coming from India, always thought US healthcare is will be top notch and with no, issues. The accessibility to care will be amazing. The overhead will be low. The administrative burden will be low. That's where my head was at until I joined healthcare. I didn't plan to go into healthcare technology, which is what I've been doing in last, 20 years. But yeah, I found a job at Kaiser Permanente, joined them, and then started working and realized healthcare in the States is so deep. And also there's so many opportunities for improvement. And then I never moved out of healthcare tech. And I've since then worked for large enterprises. I've worked for smaller organizations that we have scaled up. I've built a couple of startups, all in healthcare.
Okay, great. No, that's awesome. You found your passion, right? You didn't know it when you started out, but you found it through your work. That's great to hear. So, I mean, along your way, as you were going through the journey, whether it was when you were still in India or after you moved here to work on your graduate degrees, did you have any mentors or anybody that helped you? Was there maybe somebody at Kaiser Permanente that got you started and gave you your passion for it, or?
all along, man. I just feel like you can't move up and you can't learn without having the right mentors in
Mm.
your life, in your career, at work, people you look up to, people you want to be. And it was the same case with me. I have got mentors at Kaiser who taught me the depth of healthcare. I went to Optum. One of my bosses was there was one thing I learned from him is like there's no like you people can deliver any and everything once you build the right teams and you have the right strategy and execution brain. I've got a mentor who was a people person. She taught me how to lead teams with empathy, which is also a big part of my leadership style, is leading with empathy. I've got folks who knew how to sell, so I learned sales from people, right? So I feel like as an individual you need mentors in life. And frankly, most of the really good people I've met who are really good at their craft and what they do, they are folks are open for mentoring, people who are up and coming. I think you just need, as an individual, need to ask for it and, reach out. And I'm sure you're going to get the help you need and mentorship you need. And, that said, I've had multiple mentors in my life.
Yeah, kind of helping you along every step of the way, teaching you that different stuff. No, that's good to hear that you had mentors and we're hoping everybody has them. I like what you said. You have to go out and ask, right? If you're sitting there doing your work with your head down, they're not going to come to you.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, here at Tomorrow's Talent, we are always focused on the next generation of the workforce and how they can better prepare themselves for the real world of work once they get out there, not school learning, right? But to get out there and really do the job. So tell me, Unmesh, how do you feel about the next generation of young, I guess, tech and healthcare professionals? Because you kind of have a foot in both worlds. Are they coming out of school eager? Do they have the skills they need to be successful? Do you see any big gaps that you feel like are a danger, to the workforce going forward?
That's a brilliant question. I personally feel what you're taught at school is probably 50% of what you need to be successful in a workplace.
Only half. Okay. Yeah.
I think it's important. It's probably the base. It's the base of what you build on. But, for you to be successful in a workplace or find a career, build a mission, build a life, there's so many things that you're not taught in school. Whether it is, and I have so many. I feel like a lot of new graduates who want to go into healthcare or technology, right? There's definitely a lot of practical exposure you need, which you need to be very open to when you get into the workplace. There's also a big part around communication and teamwork, right?
Mm.
I feel like that's a skill which is probably the least focused on when you are going through a curriculum. But I can tell you, like working in a team and being part of, doing your thing, but making sure you're passing the ball to teammates and working alongside with them is probably a really critical skill set. These days it's the age of AI. So if anyone was doing software development or in my tech world, if folks were doing software development or you're doing software testing or business analysis or SQL, or there's ton of different types of roles within tech software specifically. But a lot of that now, the engineers are kind of the second level reviewers, if you may, versus back in the day you had to write thousands and thousands lines of code. Now you really don't need to, because there's, every stack where you write code has generative AI built in, and you can just write commands and it's all prompt engineering. It'll give you the code base. But now you need to be a really good worker to work with this embedded AI in your day to day, right? So I think the onset of AI is changing a lot of things quite rapidly, especially in the tech world. In healthcare, I feel like, obviously, I think my healthcare hat, there's always a dearth of people, but now the workforce that is going into healthcare, nurses, providers, physicians, MAs, PAs, they all have to be a little bit more tech savvy,
Mm.
working with electronic medical records. There's new technology coming out in clinics every day, whether it is, transcribing and, whether it is, overlays that people are building on top of your systems, whether it's data and analytics driven work. So people just have to be a little bit more tech savvy. At least that's been my experience, and that will definitely help in as you get into the workforce.
Yeah, yeah, okay. So tech savviness, even if you're going into a non-tech field, right? Something you wouldn't traditionally think of as related to tech. What do you think, and maybe thinking more about, at Incuvio, what do you think is the biggest stumbling block or the biggest challenge for like new entry level employees? Is it that teamwork aspect, or where do you see them needing the most growth?
So I think we are a distributed team, and a
Mm,
lot of folks post-COVID have built globally distributed teams. You've got people in all parts of America. We've got some workforce in India. And I think it works really well for the experienced guys who've been around the block for a while. But for the newcomers, it's hard because they need hands-on training, they need hands-on
mhm.
support, they need mentorship. And I think that's the toughest challenge when we bring on new grads or folks who've just got into the workforce. And um, the way we try to handle it is by assigning mentors and managers who are hand-holding the staff virtually. But yeah, that to me is like the biggest pre-COVID versus post-COVID era. That's been the biggest issue with especially the new grads who are coming and joining us at Incuvio.
Right. Yeah. Kind of a sounds almost like a catch-22 you've got set up, right? Where you say to work with the AI tools, you've got to be a really dedicated and kind of detail-oriented worker and be good at that. But then for folks coming in after that's been introduced, right, it's really hard to get those skills and to get up to speed and be operating with it. It's great to hear that Incuvio is thinking about that. You guys have mentors, you have really specific coaching set up. Do you think that business leaders and businesses have like a responsibility to lift up the next generation of workers to work on that pipeline, or where do you see that line kind of fall between school and education and training and joining the workforce, and where's their overlap maybe?
Yeah, yeah, we all do. I mean, we got that pathway, we got that bridge. So it's now our responsibility as business leaders, as folks who are at the helm of running things in our own professions. We owe it to the next generation to help them. I think it's a combination of both. So I think the schools, and I'm seeing a lot of that happening right now. The schools are embedding more and more, like in the final year, students are doing their projects, they're doing, working on internships, which I think internships are an excellent way to give graduates or people going through the school a flavor of what workforce or working in a workplace would look like. And then I think it's our responsibility as people who are building businesses or running, in a corporate, whatever roles we are into, to then generate these internship type opportunities to really give that bridge, give that arm that the new grads or that folks going to the school can hold on and come over into the workforce.
I love you keep saying bridge. When Tomorrow's Talent was just getting started, when we were still really new to this, all of our imagery, like you would have seen behind me, we had pictures of bridges everywhere, right? Because we agree, yeah, we wanted to build that bridge, right, out of education into the workforce, get people across that gap. So it's great to hear the same language, right? You're thinking like us. So then what do you think? And obviously, just from your view, I don't expect you to have done any research or anything on this, but what do you think stops companies from offering more internships or apprenticeships or, mentorship to young new workers getting into the workforce?
I think it's the infrastructure of, you know, giving this again, I'll call the word bridge, right? The infrastructure of, I don't think it's the dearth of people do want to do this. People do want to set up, internship programs and whatnot. But managing that, how do you manage, onboarding of interns, training of interns, and then really identifying which one suits, which of those people actually suit your future of what you're building? I think that infrastructure is missing. And also a lot of businesses are under a lot of like, there's so many changes going on right now. So a lot of the small businesses are really working heads down, just trying to get past, changes and, everything going on. And they're all running, like we guys are running a million miles an hour at all times. So it's just having that strategy and having the arm that helps you with that strategy of bringing in the workforce is the tough part, which I think it's not the intent, it's really execution of
Mhm.
bringing the people in and then making them successful because it's a process. And I think if the corporates and if the startups and folks who are building businesses, they get the support internally through their HR teams or externally through vendors and whatnot, I think it'll be, um, I think it's definitely a worthwhile effort because, you're building the next generation of people who are going to be running things when, the folks who are running stuff right now are, moving towards retirement and, that cycle needs to keep going.
Right, right. You got to fill the bottom if we're going to let people out at the top, right? Got to keep it cycling. I like that idea. Do you see, in our work in some of the industries that we've worked with, we've noticed a little bit of what we might call poaching, right? Where people are trying to, instead of hiring new talent, they go to their competitors or to their other companies that work on the same kind of things they do, and they offer a higher salary, right? And take that person instead. Are you seeing any of that in like the tech and healthcare industries, or is there more of a focus on fostering new talent? Or just tell
I
me your experience.
I see both. I mean, there's definitely a lot of movement, right? And I mean, I don't even call it poaching. I feel like if someone wants to leave a workplace, they'll leave the workplace. They don't need someone to poach him. So, as organizations building the right culture, giving the right
Mm,
growth, having the right, and it's not always or most of the times it's not about your salary that you're making that lets you leave an organization. It's the culture, it's your manager, it's the kind of work you're doing, it's the kind of growth you're going to get over time, right? So I think it's imperative for every organization to build a culture of growth, a culture of support, a culture of empathy, and people won't leave. But that's the trend. People move around, and there's a lot of that happening right now. But at the same time, I also feel like the organizations that, especially in the tech world, right, consulting has been big. And a lot of, I've seen a lot of consulting organizations, global consulting organizations who start with associate roles right out of college. And I see longevity there because if you've got a new grad who you are training through the right culture, bringing them in, showing them a path of growth, I don't think they're going to leave. So it's less about poaching, it's less about organizations building that culture. And I see both. I mean, there's definitely people moving around, but there's a lot of like new grads coming into the workforce as well, which is happening. And but I think there can be more. I feel like giving that bridge or giving that platform for the new grads to come join. I think a lot of that can be done. More of that can be done.
great. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. And, thinking about building a culture of growth, I feel like having internships and apprenticeships would lend to that culture, right? Those could maybe go
Absolutely.
hand in hand.
Absolutely.
Awesome. If you could If you could give some advice to people who are maybe just looking at starting college or recently graduated from college, right? And they're looking at going into maybe the tech healthcare space combined, or, maybe they're headed towards a nursing degree or they're going to go straight into coding. What advice would you give them? And you can split that by industry if you want, right? Might be very different, but what advice would you give somebody who's just at the forefront of their career?
So I think people who want to go to the school and identify what careers they want to take, um, definitely do some research, follow your passion, right? I feel like I knew when I was growing up, that I want to get into leadership and management. And that's what I pursued as education because I knew I want to get into leadership and management. Um, some people are really good at math, or some people are great caregivers who care about people. Some people like giving back, right? So see where as you're growing up, what excites you, and then try to choose that line as your education, because I feel like then the work will not seem like work and you're going to really
Mhm.
enjoy it if you get into that field. So definitely do some digging internally before you choose where you want to go, and then talk to mentors. There are people, if you feel strongly about going into nursing, or you feel strongly about going into technology, try to find people, mentors who have been there. And there's a ton of, like, even if you don't have someone in your personal circle, start with setting up a LinkedIn account. um, I feel like LinkedIn is probably the best place to start and connect with people, and reach out for help. I mean, I personally got so many messages from students and people who want to get into tech or move up and I all the time I do respond on whatever way I can help them. So I think do that. And then when you're about to get in the workforce, I think there's so much you can do. You can again look for mentors who can help you think through. I had a mentor who sort of, when I was getting early in my career, I wanted to go into project management. And there's this gentleman I would call once a month to just learn more about what's going on. What should I work on? Should I work on my tech skills or project management? What tools should I use, right? So definitely look for people for help. Do a lot of research. Everything is available online. And then proactively reach out to employers. There's HRs who are on LinkedIn. There's, ways you can reach out to folks. Try to reach out as much as you can rather than just going through the regular route of applying to a job which has, over 1,000 applicants, and then it's just hard to get shortlisted there.
Yeah, yeah, definitely hard to get shortlisted. I was actually, thank you. It's a great segue. I was going to ask next, what makes a new applicant, somebody new to the workforce, what makes them stand out to you? If you were, say, in a room of recent college grads or you were reading resumes or whatnot, what makes somebody jump out to you and you think they've got it?
I think it's their intent. Personally, what I see, I mean,
Hmm.
different people see different things. What I see is the balance of intent and what they would like to do. A lot of people who want to move up or who want to learn, and if they're reaching out to you proactively and they're asking questions and they're saying, "Hey, I need help. Can you help me?" You can already see the vital signs that they'll be a great asset to what you do. And I think that's, to me, like that intent is important. I think I also, during my interview processes or while talking to folks, um, just look at more behavioral aspects outside of obviously their curriculum, which is really important. I
Right.
also look super deeply on the behavioral side to make sure that they're going to be great team players. They're going to join us and they will work well with a group of people who are much more experienced, seasoned, will not shy away from asking for help, and a ton of different things. But yeah, for me, intent, reading the intent is probably the biggest one out of other things I look at.
Okay. Okay. So I'm hearing find what you really love to do, right? And then get out there, learn as much as you can about it and talk to other folks who do the same stuff, right? Let your passion show itself.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Exactly.
Awesome. I think that's great advice that a lot of our young folks need to hear. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. Is there anything else that you would think an educator maybe preparing students for this or that young students going out into this kind of work? Is there anything else you think they should know that they need to hear?
I think this is what I would just preface is this: the world is changing very quickly with
Mm.
AI, with technology. Be aware of all of those changes and prepare yourself to work with all these things coming out. And then, there's no dearth of opportunity these days. And the beauty of where the world we are living in is there so many new professions that have popped up with the onset of social media, with the onset of digital media changing very quickly, with the onset of AI, the relevance on technology, data. The world is exploding with opportunities. And also, people are not geographically constrained now. You can
Mm,
be sitting in one of the states in US and you can be working for an employer on the different side of the globe, right? So
yeah,
the world has turned into a super small marketplace, and I think people who will be aware of all these changes will win and will grow. There's there's no better time than right now to be working and to be building a career.
that's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you so much, Unmesh. It has been just a pleasure talking to you today. I think that is about all the time we have. But thank you so much for joining us and sharing what you did, telling us a little bit about your journey, and really giving some really solid advice, I think, for young folks to hear about what it takes to get out there these days. Very hopeful. Thank you.
Thank you,
Also,
Zach.
yeah, of
Thanks for having
course.
me on.
And thank you, everybody, for joining us, whether you were listening or watching. If you're watching us on YouTube, please do take a moment to subscribe, leave a comment, hit that like button for us. It really does help us get the word out a lot so that other people can hear the great message like we had today. And if you're listening to us just as an audio podcast, please leave a comment down there and, hit us on your favorites so that we can get the word out to more folks. We really appreciate your time here today, and we'll see you next time on the Bridge to Tomorrow's Talent.